In the heart of a dense African jungle, where the trees whispered secrets and the rivers sang ancient songs, there lay a village called Odu. It was a peaceful place known for its vibrant culture and the deep connection its people had with the spirits of the land. The villagers believed that the spirits of their ancestors lived among them, guiding and protecting them from harm. At the center of this village stood a grand drum carved from the oldest tree in the forest and adorned with intricate patterns that told the history of the land. This drum was no ordinary instrument. It was said to hold the power of the ancestors themselves. The drum was played only on special occasions when the village needed to communicate with the spirit. Its deep resonant sound would echo through the forest, calling forth the ancestral spirits to listen to the plea of their descendants. The villagers reverenced the drum, for it had been with them for generations, passed down from the one drum master to the next. The current drum master, Ekweme, was a wise and respected elder, known for his skill in summoning the spirit with the drum's power beats. But there was one in the village who converted the drum's power. His name was Tunde, a young man with a heart full of envy and ambition. Tunde was jealous of Ekweme's stature and the reverence the villagers showed him. He believed that if he could possess the drum, he would gain the power of the ancestors and become the most powerful man in the village. Tunde's desire grew each day until it consumed him entirely. One fateful night, under the cover of darkness, Tunde crept into Ekweme's hut. The old man was fast asleep, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Tunde approached the drum with trembling hands, his heart pounding in his chest. As he reached out to touch the drum, a cold wind blew through the hut, and the fire in the heart flickered and died. Tunde hesitated, but his greed overcame his fear. He grabbed the drum and fled into the night. As Tunde ran through the forest, he felt a strange sensation, as if the trees were closing in around him. The shadows seemed to stretch and grow, their dark tendrils reaching out to grab him. The once familiar path twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the heart of the jungle. Tunde's breath came in range gaps as he realized he was lost. The drum, heavy in his arms, seemed to pulse with an ill energy. Back in the village, Ekweme awoke with a start. He felt a terrible emptiness in his soul, as if a part of him had been torn away. He rushed to the corner of his hut where the drum should have been, but found only an empty space. The old man's heart sank as he realized what had happened. He knew that Tunde had taken the drum, and he feared the consequences of such an act. The drum was not just a symbol of power, it was a sacred object bound to the spirit of the ancestors. To steal it was to anger the spirit, and Ekweme knew that Tunde had unleashed a terrible curse upon himself. The next morning, the villagers gathered in the square, whispering in fear as they noticed the absence of the drum. Ekweme stood before them, his face grave and sorrowful. He told them of Tunde's betrayal and warned them of the curse that would follow. The villagers were filled with dread, for they knew the story of those who had angered the spirits. They had heard of the misfortune that befell those who dared to defy the will of the ancestors. Meanwhile, Tunde wandered deeper into the jungle, the drum growing heavier with each step. The trees whispered his name, their voices filled with malice. The animals of the forest, once friendly and curious, now watched him with cold, unforgiving eyes. Tunde's fear grew, but his greed would not let him turn back. He believed that if he find a place to hide, the curse would not find him. Days passed, and Tunde's journey became more arduous. He no longer felt the drum's power. Instead, it seemed to drain his strength, making him weaker with each passing moment. His once strong legs wobbled under the weight, and his vision blurred. The jungle was relentless, its veins and thorns tearing at his flesh, leaving him bloody and exhausted. One night, as Tunde lay on the cold hard ground, he heard the sound of the drums in the distance. The beat was slow and ominous, unlike anything he had heard before. It filled him with a deep, primal fear that ground at his very soul. Tunde covered his ears, but the sound grew louder, reverberating through his body. The drum in his possession began to glow with a dark, pulsating light, and he knew the spirits were near. As the night wore on, the drumming grew louder until it seemed to come from within Tunde's own chest. His heart pounded in time with the rhyme, and it felt as if his very life force was being drained by the cursed instrument. Desperation overtook him, and Tunde tried to throw the drum away, but it clung to his hands, refusing to be discarded. The weight of his action bore down on him, and he realized too late the gravity of his betrayal. The next morning, Tunde awoke to find himself surrounded by the spirits of the ancestors. They were not the benevolent gods he had imagined, but vengeful beings, their eyes burning with anger. They spoke in a language he could not understand, their voice like the rustling of leaves in a storm. Tunde tried to plead for mercy, but the spirits were unforgiving. They had been angered by his greed, and they demanded retribution. The spirits plead a curse upon Tunde, binding his soul to the drum he had stolen. He would be forced to wander the jungle for eternity, never to find peace. His life sustained by the very instrument that had brought him to ruin. The drum would forever bear the mark of his betrayal. Its once beautiful carvings now twisted and deformed, a reflection of the darkness in Tunde's heart. Word of Tunde's fate soon reached the village. The people of Odum mourned for him, for despite his betrayal, he had once been one of their own. They gathered around the empty space where the drum had once stood, their hearts heavy with sorrow. Ekweme, the old drum master, led them in a solemn ceremony, calling upon the ancestors to forgive Tunde and bring peace to his tormented soul. But the spirit did not answer. The drum was lost to them, and with it, the connection to their ancestors. The village of Odun fell into despair, for without the drum, they felt abandoned and vulnerable. The crops withered, the animals grew scarce, and illness spread among the people. The once vibrant village was now a place of fear and suffering, and the villagers knew that the curse of the drum had not ended with Tunde. As the years passed, the story of the cursed drum became legend. The people of Odun speak of in harsh tones, warning their children never to let greed and ambition cloud their hearts. They knew that the jungle still heard the drum, and that the spirits were still watching, waiting for the day when the curse would be broken. Deep in the heart of the jungle, Tunde wandered alone, his body frail and worn, but unable to die. The drum had become a part of him, its dark power sustaining his cursed existence. He could hear the whisper of the spirits, mocking him, reminding him of his sins. Tunde longed for redemption, but he knew that it would never come. The curse was his punishment, and he would bear it for all eternity. One day, many years after Tunde had stolen the drum, a young girl named Amina arrived in the village of Odu. She was a stranger, her origins unknown, but she carried with her a sense of purpose that intrigued the village. Amina spoke of a dream she had, in which the spirit of the ancestors called out to her, guiding her to the village. She believed that she was meant to find the cursed drum and break the curse that had plagued Odun for so long. The villagers were skeptical, but they were also desperate for hope. They told Amina the story of the cursed drum, and she listened intently, her resolve growing stronger with each word. Amina knew that the journey ahead would be dangerous, but she was determined to restore the drum and bring peace to the village. Amina set out into the jungle, guarded by the whisper of the spirits. The path was treacherous, but she moved with a confidence that belied her young age. The animals of the forest seemed to sense her purpose and did not hinder her journey. As she ventured deeper into the jungle, she began to feel the presence of the spirits, their voices guiding her toward the cursed drum. After days of searching, Amina finally found Tunde. He was a mere shadow of the man he had once been, his eyes hollow and lifeless. The drum laid beside him, its once gleaming surface now dull and cracked. Amina approached him curiously, her heart filled with both pity and resolve. She knew that Tunde was not the enemy, but a victim of his own greed and ambition. Tunde looked at Amina, his voice weak and trembling. "Who are you?" he asked, his eyes filled with tiredness. Amina knelt beside Tunde, her gaze softened as she saw the pain itch in his face. "I am Amina," she replied gently, "and I have come to help you. The spirit guided me here. They believe the curse can be broken, but I need your help to do so." Tunde's eyes widened in surprise. He had long given up hope of redemption, and the idea that someone would come to save him seemed impossible. "Why will you help me?" Tunde whispered, his voice barely audible. "I brought this curse upon myself, and I have paid for it dearly. I know I don't deserve redemption. Amina shook her head, her determination unwavering. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Tunde, she said firmly. The spirit would not have guided me here if they did not believe you would be saved. But you must be willing to face your past and make amends. Tunde looked at Amina, a flicker of hope indignant in his heart. Could it be true? Would he finally be free of the curse that had tormented him for so long? He knew that Amina was right. If he was to break the curse, he would need to confront the mistake he had made. With a deep breath, Tunde nodded. I will do whatever it takes, he said, his voice filled with newfound resolve. Tell me what I must do. Amina smiled, relieved that Tunde was willing to try. She reached out and took the curse drum in her hands, feeling the dark energy pulsing through it. The drum was once a sacred object, he explained. It was meant to connect the village to the ancestors, but your betrayal tinted it with darkness. To break the curse, we must cleanse the drum and restore its original purpose. But first, we must return it to the village. Tunde hesitated, fear gripping his heart. The thought of returning to the village, the place where he had committed his greatest sin, filled him with dread. The villagers would never forgive him, he murmured. They will see me as a traitor. Amina squeezed his hand, reassuringly. You must have faith, she said. The villagers may be angry, but they will also see that you are trying to make things right. Redemption cannot come without facing those you have wronged. With Amina's encouragement, Tunde gathered in strength and began the journey back to the village, the cursed drum in his hands. The jungle that had once been his prison now seemed less forbidding, as if the spirits themselves were guiding him on his path to redemption. As they walked, Amina told Tunde of her vision of the ancestors who had appeared to her in her dreams and urged her to seek out the cursed drum. She believed that the spirits have never abandoned the village, but have been waiting for the right moment to intervene. The journey back to Odum was long and arduous, but Tunde felt a sense of purpose he had not known in years. Each step he took felt lighter, as if the weight of the curse was slowly lifting. He was no longer alone. Amina's presence gave him the strength to face his fears. Along the way, they encountered signs that the spirits were watching over them. A sudden gust of wind and cleared their path. A bird that sang a song of hope. A ray of sunlight that broke through the thick canopy of the jungle. When they finally reached the outskirts of the village, Tunde paused, his heart pounding in his chest. He could see the familiar huts, the villagers going about their daily routine, unaware of his approach. Amina placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. This is your moment, Tunde, she said softly. Remember, the spirits are with you. They believe in your redemption, and so do I. Tunde nodded, taking a deep breath as he stepped into the village. The villagers quickly noticed Tunde's return, and a murmur of shock and disbelief ripping through the crowd. They had believed him to be lost forever, consumed by the curse he had brought upon himself. Now, here he was, standing before them with the curse drum in his hands. Ekweme, the old drum master, emerged from his hut, his eyes narrowing as he recognized the man who had betrayed the village. Tunde, Ekweme said, his voice stern but not unkind. Why have you returned? Have you come to bring more misfortune upon us? The villagers gathered around, their faces a mix of anger and curiosity. Tunde felt the weight of their gaze, but he did not falter. He had come too far to turn back now. I have returned to make amends, Tunde said, his voice steady. I know that I have wronged you all, and I have paid dearly for my betrayal. But I seek redemption, and I wish to restore the drum to its rightful place. The villagers exchanged uncertain glances. They had suffered greatly because of Tunde's action, and the memories of the cause still lingered in their hearts. But as they looked into Tunde's eyes, they saw not the man who had betrayed them, but someone who had been humbled by his mistake. Amina stepped forward, her presence calming the tense atmosphere. I have seen the spirit, she said, her voice clear and strong. They guided me to Tunde and brought us here. They believe that the curse can be broken, but he must work together to cleanse the drum and restore it to its former glory. Ekwueme studied Amina for long moments, his wise eyes searching for any signs of deceit, but he saw only sincerity and determination. Finally, he nodded. Very well, he said. If the Spirit has sent you, then we must heed their call. But know this, Tunde, the path to redemption is not an easy one. You will need to prove your sincerity through your action, not just your words. Tunde bowed his head in gratitude. I understand, he said. I am prepared to do whatever it takes to make things right. With that, Ekwueme led Tunde and Amina to the center of the village, where the drum had once stood. The villagers followed, their curiosity plagued. They had all suffered under the curse, and while they were weary of Tunde, they also longed for the peace that had been taken from them. At the center of the village, Ekwueme instructed Tunde to place the drum on the ground. Amina stepped forward, her hands glowing with a soft, entrained light as she began to chant an ancient prayer. The villagers watched as the light spread from her hands to the drum, enveloping it in a warm, golden glow. The dark energy that had once tinted the drum began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm and serenity. Tunde watched in amazement as the drum's carvings, once twisted and deformed, slowly began to heal. The intricate patterns that told the history of the land reappeared, more beautiful than ever. The drum, now cleansed of its curse, seemed to pause with a gentle reassuring rhyme, as if the spirits themselves were breathing life back into it. As the cleansing ritual continued, Amina's voice grew stronger, her words resonating with the power of the ancestors. The villagers felt a sense of peace that they had not known in years, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Even Ekwueme, who had harbored doubts about Tunde's return, felt a deep sense of relief and hope. When the ritual was complete, Amina stepped back, her face flushed with the effort. The drum now stood restored, its power no longer tainted by darkness. The villagers entrusted into chairs, their joy and gratitude palpable. Tunde fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he realized that the curse has finally been lifted. He had been given a second chance, a chance to make amends and to find peace within himself. Ekwueme approached Tunde, placing a hand on his shoulder. You had done well, the old drum master said, his voice filled with approval. The spirits have seen your sincerity and they have forgiven you. But remember, redemption is not a destination, but a journey you must continue to walk the path of righteousness, and never again let greed or ambition cloud your heart." Tunde nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I will," he promised. "I will spend the rest of my life making amends for what I have done, and I will use the lessons I have learned to guide others away from the same mistakes." The villagers gathered around him, their expression no longer filled with anger or suspicion, but with acceptance and hope. They had all suffered because of the curse, but now together they could begin to heal. As the days passed, the village of Odun began to thrive once more. The crops grew tall and plentiful. The animals returned to the forest, and the illness that had plagued the village began to disappear. The drum was once again at the center of the village, its power beat connecting the people of Odun with the spirit of the ancestors. Tunde worked tirelessly to rebuild the trust he has lost, helping the villagers with their daily tasks and sharing the wisdom he had gained during his years of wandering. He became a humble and respected member of the community. And while the memories of his betrayal never completely fade, the villagers came to see him as a symbol of redemption and the power of second chance. From that day forward, Tunde was no longer seen as the man who had brought misfortune to the village, but as a hero who has risked everything to set things right. The villagers welcomed him back into their hearts, and Tunde finally felt the warmth of their trust once more. The spirits, ever watchful, smiled upon the village of Odu. The curse was a distant memory replaced by a deep and abiding peace. The villagers knew that as long as they remained true to their traditions, the spirit would continue to protect and guide them. And so the village of Odu continued to flourish, its people forever bound by the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. The drum beat, steady and strong, echo through the ages, a symbol of the unbreakable bond between the living and the ancestors. The story of Tunde and the cursed drum live on, a tale of hope and redemption, passed down from generation to generation. It reminded the people of Odun and all who had it that no one was beyond redemption, and that the spirits, though sometimes stern, were always fair and just.